Hi everybody, I'm Mike McCrory and this is Would You Make It? In this episode, I'm going to make a cube within a cube. You've probably seen these before. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there on how to make these. Let me just take a step back and talk about why I'm going to make this. In fact, I'm not going to make one of these, I'm going to make 6 to be used as gifts. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm involved in a clinical trial. I have type 1 diabetes, and there's really no cure for type 1 diabetes right now. Maybe one day there will be. So this clinical trial is for testing an artificial pancreas. So a lot of people, if you know somebody that has diabetes, you may have seen one of these before. This is an insulin pump, and this is attached to my abdomen. I have a needle coming in here. This is a pump with a tube, which I don't really like to use, but it's part of the trial. I prefer to have a tubeless pump that's attached to the back of my arm. This is a little bit of a shop hazard because it can catch on things. So then another part of the study is this continuous glucose monitor. So this has another needle. It's just a Teflon needle, but it's a needle that goes under my skin. It has a sensor, a transmitter, and then this device over here is the receiver. And the receiver every 5 minutes tells me what my blood sugar level is, and it shows me a trend, which is very helpful for me to make decisions about what I should do about a high or a low blood sugar reading. So what makes this special is this device. This is the artificial pancreas, and really it's just a cell phone, but it has a software algorithm running in it that talks to these devices. It talks to the pump and it talks to the sensor. Every 5 minutes, it reads the sensor and makes a determination on how much insulin it should give me. So this is really great news for diabetics. It's not available commercially yet. It's probably a year away or so while they complete their testing and go through FDA approval. But it's been really helpful for me. There's a measurement of your 3-month average blood sugar level. It's called the hemoglobin A1C or the A1C. A range for people that are not diabetic is typically from 4 to 6, and that's a normal range. Anything higher than 6 is considered to be a diabetic. And for diabetics, they really recommend that you have a level that's 7.0 or below. So when I started this trial, I wasn't great. I was okay. I was 6.9, so just under that threshold. Now, after 5 months of being under this trial, actually 2 separate trials, 2 consecutive trials, but now 5 months after this trial, I've gone from 6.9 to 5.9. 5.9 is considered within a normal range. I'm not normal, obviously, because I need insulin to maintain that level, but this is something that's going to be really good for people to help avoid long-term complications. If you'd like to learn more about the artificial pancreas and how I'm using it, stay tuned at the end of this episode and I'll show you some more details about it. So with that said, I'm going to start making these. So let's get started. So I've got this piece of padauk. It's about 36 inches long. It's got a little damage in this corner. So I'm going to start here because I've got more than 3 inches of width here that I can cut out. Wood is 3 inches thick. So the resulting cube is going to be a little bit less than 3 inches, probably 2 7/8 or 2 3/4. And that's okay. That's still a good size. And that's about the size of the cube that I made before. The rest of the wood is just a little over 6 inches. So once I cross this damaged piece, I'll be able to get 2 cubes every 3 inches. After I cut the length that I want, I'm going to joint it on the face and on the edge, and then I'll run it through the planer. And that's the best way of getting a cube with equal dimensions, height and width, because I can pass it through the planer and everything's going to be the same. I used the bandsaw to cut out the first piece that was roughly 12 inches long. And then I measured a width just a little over 3 inches so that I could cut the width of the piece. And this gave me enough material to cut out 4 cubes. And then I used the jointer on 2 sides so that I would have 2 sides that were flat and perpendicular to each other. And then I ran the material through the planer on all 4 sides so that I had all 4 sides equal dimensions. When I cut this first piece, I noticed a little bit of tear out along the top. So I'm going to try to overcome that with some blue tape that I'll apply along the cut line, and I'll run the saw blade through that and see if that helps to minimize the amount of tear out. I've got a stop block in place, so that's going to make it really easy to quickly cut each of the cubes. And I'll peel off the tape. And that's a nice clean cut now. Here's the edge cut without the blue tape, and here's the other edge over here where there was no blue tape, and you can see the tear out. All right, so there are my first 4 cubes. I don't have much in the way of sanding equipment. That's one of the things I hope to upgrade soon. So here I'm using my belt sander upside down so that I can size all of the lengths of the cubes to be exactly the same. And now I'm going to draw a line from corner to corner so that I can find the center of the cube. I'll do this on all 6 sides. Now with a 2-inch Forstner bit, I'm drilling down just a little bit to see where the circle intersects with the lines. I'm measuring that, and then I'll set my depth so that it goes down that far. Now in my experience, I've found that I need to go a little bit deeper than that, but that's a good starting point. I can drill safely down to that level, and then I can go in bit by bit until the center cube breaks away. It's pretty slow going, especially on the end grain. And this is not the newest Forstner bit. I've done a lot of projects with this one, so it's probably time for me to get a new one. I'll drill down to the set depth on all 6 sides, and then once I've done that, I'll start to inch down a little bit on each side, very carefully. You can see my dust collection on the drill press fence is working fairly well. And I'm just going little bit by little bit, taking little nibbles out of the cube. Now I'm getting closer and closer to the center. The cube's almost ready to break out, so I have to be very careful now. And there it goes. It broke free. Now all I have to do is make 5 more of these. Now I'm using a rasp just to smooth down the edges, get any of the rough edges out. Here I'm finishing it up with a bit of sandpaper, 150 grit I believe, and then 150 grit on the random orbit sander. And then I applied a coat of Danish oil to give it a nice rich look, and then I applied a coat of wax on top of that, just to polish it up. So there you have it. Here are the 6 cubes that I made. I'm hopeful that next week when I see the doctors, nurses, and engineers, they'll be pleased to receive one of these. So before I leave, I gotta ask, would you make it? This is a closer look at the artificial pancreas, the cell phone portion of it. It has different modes. Right now it's in closed loop mode as indicated up at the top. And it shows that my glucose level is 114 right now. If you're living in Canada, that would be equivalent to about 6.3. And I can put it in pump mode rather than closed loop. In pump mode, it just gives me a regular predetermined amount of insulin every few minutes. That's what's known as the basal rate. So if I switch it back to closed loop mode, it asks me, am I sure? And then I can go ahead and tell it that I'm about to eat something. And it asks me, what's my current blood sugar level and how much am I going to eat? So I'll tell it that I'm going to eat 55 grams of carbs. And really what I should be doing here is testing my blood sugar with a finger stick, just to confirm what the continuous glucose monitor is measuring. So there it just gave me 3.7 units of insulin. And it shows me that as of 5 minutes ago, my blood sugar level was 114, and now it just gave the new reading. It's now 122. And I can see that it's trending up. And if I click on the trend button, I can see how the blood sugar level has fluctuated over time. And I can change the display. And if I scroll back in time, you can see those orange bars down at the bottom. That's the basal rate that it's giving me. And then you can see periods where there's no insulin that it's giving me. And my last meal was at about 9:30 yesterday evening. That was the last time I ate something. So it was fairly stable, pretty good control with this device. I can tell it that I'm going to exercise by clicking on the exercise button. It doesn't have any impact with this algorithm, but it's still a good practice, I think. And then I can also press the hypo button that says, I think I'm going to be low and I'm going to eat something, but I'm not going to take any insulin. After I made the cubes, I decided to go for a 6-mile trail run. So I decided to load up on some carbs before going because my blood sugar was only around 85, 87, and that's where the red arrow is. And then about an hour later is when I started my run after I drove to the park. And I started at about 123. And my level went up to about 143, and then it turned the corner. And where the blue bar is drawn, that's at about the 3-mile mark. I started to feel as if a low was coming on, even though the CGM didn't indicate that yet. And then where the second red arrow is, that's the 4-mile mark when I decided to stop and consume 15 grams of carbs. I always carry emergency food with me for that purpose, but I just didn't feel right. So the yellow bar represents the last 2 miles roughly, and I ended up walking out because I just didn't feel steady. So one of the disadvantages of this algorithm is it doesn't really handle intensive workouts very well. It certainly can, but it's not programmed to do that. So that's it in a nutshell. This is a week later now, and unfortunately, I had to turn in my artificial pancreas because my trial has ended. The good news is that my A1C was measured at 5.8 today, so that's the lowest ever. I'm really happy about that. And now I'm just looking forward to the next trial.